So as a kid, I used to own betta fish because my parents wanted to teach me how to be responsible for taking care of an animal. This resulted in us getting a betta fish because the people at the pet store said the directions for taking care of the animal was simple and this could teach me how to take care of pets. This resulted in myself owning a betta fish for 2 years inside less than a gallon of water. I never really learned how to cycle a fish tank, and I never really put a heater inside the tank either. This would happen again many years later, except this time it would yield with better results. Despite the fish dying, it did end up living 2 years, which is the longest I've ever been able to keep a fish alive. A nitrogen cycle is the natural process in which water with ammonia in it gets broken down into less toxic things, such as nitrites and nitrates. Ammonia is a byproduct of biological waste. If it doesn't get broken down into something else, it will kill. Ammonia is also a common antiseptic and cleaning product as well. Eventually, nitrates do get removed from the water by plants and evaporation. They can also get removed from changing the water, which functions as artificially emulating evaporation. The cycle happens inside of something known as an aquarium filter, where the bacteria break down the waste of the animal. Beneficial bacteria also do live on the surface of things inside of the tank, but are really abundant inside of the filter. The filter does not filter out the fish's waste, but break it down because of the beneficial bacteria. This is a common thing people do actually get wrong who know nothing about fish keeping. Betta fish are tropical fish, which means that water has to be kept in around 78 degrees Fahrenheit or 26 degrees Celsius. Otherwise, they will get cold and die from eventually getting sick. Not to mention, cold can take a toll on the fish's heart and distress them as it would for a person. During the pandemic, I had issues of boredom, so I wanted to turn up fish keeping because it sounded like a fun, relaxing hobby. I wanted to own betta fish again, but I wanted it to look good. I didn't like how the fish tank looked growing up since it was so small, and I did research. The plan was to buy a 5 or 10 gallon tank, where that was what was recommended. I planned on buying a heater and filter since I figured they were important to have. I was also not fully understanding why. I bought a SpongeBob pineapple substrate, some fake plants, and decor. While I was at the big chain pet store, I was asking for help from the fish store manager in regards to how to take care of the fish. The man handed me a chemical saying that this was safe for the fish and it had beneficial bacteria inside of it that would make the environment safe to put the fish in. He was the person who recommended me the decor, while unfortunately not mentioning some key important information about the decorations or really anything. I got the fish from the same store, and his name was Neptune. He was a blue long fin betta that I did like. Unfortunately, there weren't many fish there I liked inside of the cups, for they all looked dead and boring to look at. This one was least bad, so I bought him from the store. After following the directions and putting the fish inside of the tank, I joined the fish keeping Discord called Alpha Betas, which was a server that was for taking care of betta fish. I got told that the guy had lied to me about the chemical and its purpose. They told me the nitrogen cycle and what it was, and it wouldn't have made any sense if I hadn't found out any other way. I didn't realize that you needed to do that first and then wait for a few months while the tank was still cycling. I may not have heard about this online while I was doing my research, but I didn't know what it was, so I may not have known otherwise. I also got eventually told that the decor I had used was bad, and the reason why my fish's fins did eventually get damaged. Plastic fake plants do not go into a fish tank. They will destroy the fish's fins, for they are actually sharp enough to do that. Eventually, I also got told to throw away the SpongeBob pineapple, because apparently there's a Facebook group called The Pineapple is At It Again, and this is a reference to the fact that there is someone in China who's manufacturing SpongeBob pineapples for fish tanks. They have been under scrutiny for years because these pineapples are notorious for killing animals. It is so bad that pet stores are not doing anything about it, and there really isn't anything anybody can do about it, unfortunately, because people are still buying them. The server did get shut down as a result of the owner deleting it. Apparently the server was famous for having moderators who owned beta sororities, which I've never heard of ending well. People have said that you can do it, but because of the fact betas are bred for the sole purpose of killing each other, thanks to people in Taiwan breeding them for hundreds of years for gambling. You shove two betas in a tank, and the one that does not kill the other one wins. A beta won't just try to kill another beta. If it sees another one, if it doesn't immediately kill the fish, it does get distressed, resulting in the fish. Betas do generally not feel good about other things that are not plants inside of their tank. They will generally not tolerate other fish, and because of the fact betas are predatory animals, they will hunt shrimp and insects in the tank. If you do not go out of the way to feed the animal will feast itself. This is similar to how major aquariums are able to keep sharks for short periods of time inside of a large tank, or the sharks will not eat anything inside of the tank as long as they are being fed. If the animal is hungry or playful enough, eventually dying just from stress, it will hunt other things inside of the tank. Some betas are less aggressive than other betas, giving them the ability to theoretically find a beta that is able to handle other living things inside of a tank, but to do so is quite trivial. Eventually the tank did get cycled, but I did want a bigger tank. I wanted a much bigger tank for my beta so I can fit other things inside of it like live plants. I did come across multiple points inside of the tank, plants I put inside of it, but they reduced the amount of swimming space. So I did eventually buy a 20-gallon tank, but I kept my older tank up and running in the off chance I decide to put the old beta back in. Apparently I thought it was a good idea to try putting other animals inside the tank with the beta at the stage I was at. The people of alpha betas recommended that I try putting neon tetras inside with the beta. I got a set of procedures for putting the neon tetras inside of the tank from these people. Neon tetras, because of the fact the beta is so aggressive, the neon tetras will eventually gang up on the beta, despite actually being notoriously calm for a fish. I added the neon tetras first, and then introduced the beta eventually. The beta did not like the other fish. After a month of trying to get the beta to enjoy the other fish, I did eventually put him back in his old tank, which is good. I bought some Von Rio tetras as well for this tank, but it was around this point the tank began to turn cloudy, for an algae bloom started to occur. An algae bloom occurs when a tank gets cycled, and the algae bloom is a response to stress from that. The algae bloom did not go away, so my automatic response was to buy shrimp to deal with it, since shrimp eat algae, but that made things worse, since they don't eat anything related to an algae bloom. I learned from another pet store that the filters I had were bad. They used activated charcoal, since that was what was recommended to me. This is extremely bad, since you don't want to use activated charcoal, since if you remove the filter, which you do have to do eventually, it will remove the whole cycle with it. Not to mention, it does not hold much bacteria inside of it, despite that's what it's supposed to do. Typically, I do recommend using lava rocks inside of these filters, since you can replace the charcoal with lava rocks. You can break them down. They do not affect the parameters of the water, and they're actually really good at filtering the water. Lava rocks are porous rocks you can buy at the hardware store, and you can break them down with a hammer or rock to make them fit if needed. The fish tank's algae bloom never really went away, and there wasn't enough water for that many fish to make it go away. I had about 10 neon tetras, 6 fawn Rio tetras, and 4 amano shrimp. This was all inside my 20-gallon tank, which was really bad. As a result of this, I bought some water clarifier, and this cleaned up the water all right, but because of the fact I put 4 times the max dosage to make it work, everything died within an hour inside of that tank. I was so devastated when this had happened, I started emptying the entire tank so I would never have to deal with this again. When I hit the bottom of the tank, I found the shrimp still inside the substrate, so I put the water back in to keep the shrimp alive. This made me think the tank was actually pretty cool to look at, despite the fact everything was dead. This made me want to add more fish, but fortunately I was smart enough to know how bad of an idea this was. The shrimp did eventually pass away from the stress and there being nothing inside the tank for them to clean up so they can eat. I felt bad about the shrimp dying, but ultimately invertebrates are bottom feeders similar to Jeffrey Epstein.
Great pleasure that I present to Metro Man this new museum, if you please.
As a result, I handed the tank to someone else for them to take care of. They made a really good shrimp tank from it, ironically. I had planned at that point never really to touch aquariums again after Neptune had died. Neptune did stay alive for quite some time after. He lived to be about a year old and then died. The 5-gallon ran into issues where, because of the tank being so small, it lost its entire cycle. I didn't notice this for some reason for months because I thought the tank was having other issues. I found out the problem after dealing with this for months, only for the fish to die a couple days later. A year later, I started a fresh cycle again and bought a new fish named Andromeda. Andromeda was a dragon scale beta, which means its genetics is similar to people that are basically pugs. This resulted in the fish dying after 3 months because of immune issues. The fish got a fungal infection not long after putting it inside the tank, resulting in me having to euthanize it. I got a new fish after that named Ruby. Ruby was a male short fin beta, and thank God, nothing super eventful happened to it. After, in the process of me owning Ruby, I bought another fish tank that was the same size as my old 20-gallon, and I put a ton of other live things into it. I managed to group Ruby with other invertebrates by adding feeder shrimp as a test subject to see how aggressive Ruby was. The feeder shrimp are a type of shrimp that are meant to be fed to other animals like goldfish and piranhas. You can buy them for 25 cents per shrimp at the pet store. Similar to lab rats, they are bred to die because of their genetics, making them very short-lived. Ruby did pass with flying colors, and I was able to group Ruby with other shrimp like amanos and bladder snails. Ruby never really attacked the snails in the amanos, but the amanos were never really seen, so it made it difficult to tell if Ruby liked the amanos. I will say Ruby did initially like the amanos, but the shrimp went into hiding for some reason. Shrimp are very cowardly, and they did the same thing in the previous tank I had with the tetras. Ruby died of dropsy, which is basically kidney failure in the fish. Dropsy can occur from poor genetics or distress. Ruby basically was sleepy the night before, and when the lights got turned off, I didn't really make much of it. The next morning, I found Ruby with fish scales that were pine coning, which means that the scales of the animal were imitating that of a pine cone. The next fish I had was named Pluto because for some reason, I thought the animal looked like snow caps on Pluto, taken from New Horizons spacecraft. He was a dragon scale because at the time I didn't really know dragon scales were similar to pugs for how inbred they are. Pluto got along with the other shrimp just fine. Pluto eventually got Diamond Eye within a few months of owning him. He was easy to train despite being blind as a result of the fact he always followed me when I walked up to the tank. This made feeding him despite being blind a lot easier. I used this to train him so I would my finger on the glass of the tank so he knew there was food coming all right. While owning Pluto, I decided to own more neon tetras because of reasons related to idiocy. At the time, the tetras did die because of shock, but one tetra. This tetra remained in the tank for a really long time. This fish outlived all my beta fish except for one, and that was the longest living fish I'd ever owned. I euthanized the animal because of the fact it was by itself for a really long time, and this was causing distress. Neon tetras are known for being social with their own kind, and this caused issues where the fish was going after the beta and it was causing issues. I tried rehoming the fish, but I couldn't because of the fact that my parents were stepping in between. My parents were claiming they knew more about fish keeping than I did, and they were interfering with my ability to rehome the fish because they claimed nothing was wrong. Pluto got cancer within 4 months. He got a tumor on his upper lip. There were multiple points I did consider euthanizing him because the tumor got so big, the cancer was bigger than the thickness of his own body. It made me feel so horrible dealing with this, but ultimately, he was really happy. It would bleed out, but nothing really would happen with him emotionally, and I felt bad about the fact he had cancer, but he was happy, and he did live for 6 months from the moment I got him. I got another fish a few months later after Pluto had passed, named Citrine. He was named after the mineral because I liked rocks so much at one point that I literally got hired to work at a gem dive. I would tell random useless information about rocks all day because I had a fossil mineral collection. I stopped collecting rocks when I realized they were too big, too heavy for me to want to store them in my own home. Unlike other things, you can't really do anything with rocks other than just look at it. It was a pointless thing to collect, unlike crystals. Citrine I bought at a local family-owned pet store that actually has good fish. I did this because I was tired of buying from PetSmart and Petco for obvious reasons. I should have been smart enough not to buy Pluto and Ruby at these stores, for neither of them seemed like they had good quality lives. I really regret not realizing this any sooner, especially considering the fact that I should have been turned off after seeing dead fish inside of their cups. I decided I wanted to buy Amazon swords, so I bought some root tabs for the tank. The root tabs ended up bursting while I was inside of the substrate. This caused ammonia spikes that never really went away. The cycle would go nuts, forcing me to have to do some water changes twice a week. I was taking 3 college courses while working at an internship in the summer. On top of my classes, I had to take another class 45 minutes away from my home to finish my degree. All of these classes were night classes, so I'd work my internship and I had to take a class at night from 6 to 10 p.m. This resulted in me spending 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. at night, those nights, literally just doing stuff to take care of what needed to be done. I did eventually get my degree, but I was only able to change the water in the tank twice a week. I needed to replace the substrate, but that was really hard to do if I was only available a few times a week to do water changes, let alone replace the substrate. I had an idea where I was going to use my old 5-gallon to put the shrimp and the beta in. The big issue with this was everything that was going on, that because this required a lot of setup, cleaning, and work over a couple weeks to maybe a month. This had actually nothing to do with how the fish ended up dying. I was keeping up with the maintenance as best I could, and I do think this was good enough. The fish died because my bedroom that summer was fluctuating a lot in temperature. The water rose to be 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 32 degrees Celsius in my room. The mornings the fish was fine because of the heater being able to handle it. I would put on my air conditioner to keep my room more balanced later in the day. For some reason, I got in trouble with my parents because the only times we are apparently allowed to use the air conditioners in the house with nobody home is for my mother's dog, apparently. The big thing with fish keeping is that there's so much misinformation about it. It's so bad. If you go online, most of the information you will find are factually incorrect. Not only does the internet lie, so do big chain pet stores, which makes it much worse. I have never received decent advice from big chain pet stores. Family-owned stores do tend to be better, but it really does depend on the store. The best advice I have received are from people on the internet, but it is not perfect as previously mentioned. So another big problem is big chain pet stores contract people to send them fish. The people aren't being paid to take care of these animals, and they're actually being encouraged to not take care. This results in fish breeding tactics and poor treatment of the animals while shipping them. This has a cataclysmal effect on fish keeping. These fish are not just being sent to other people's homes, they're being sent to other places that do breed fish. This degrades quality of the animals and the quality of their lives tremendously. This is forcing people to buy wild bettas from Taiwan as an attempt to fix this problem as best they can, for bettas in nature do not have the issues that bettas have in captivity. Fish keeping, even without everything considered, is not something we really know all that much about. Neon tetras in the wild can live for 10 years approximately in the Amazon rainforest. Despite this, their lives are halved in captivity. Shrimp like bamboo shrimp are only found in the wild. Bamboo shrimp you find in a pet store were stolen from nature. This causes these types of animals to be endangered out in the wild or extinct. Axolotls are critically endangered in Mexico for these reasons. There's only one body of water in Mexico that still has these, and that is not even saying much because that water barely has any. If you own a pet, you may as well treat it like family. Otherwise, what is the point in you owning that animal? There's a subreddit called Shitty Aquariums that exists for a reason. You will find a lot of information about people owning fish who do not take care of them while on this subreddit. You will not only find a lot of information about fish keeping in the comments section, you will also find a lot of snark. After all, this is Reddit I'm talking about. Unfortunately, because of the nature of what is not known, the fact that, unlike most animals, fish do not have much in terms of emotions, this causes a lot of abuse towards these animals. It is so bad that most people who own fish do not take care of them properly. It is so bad, it is a cataclysmal problem that is really not getting any better. Because of the internet, it is getting much worse. I am sorry you guys had to hear me talk about how I mistreated a series of animals that I really cared about and tried desperately to take care of, but unfortunately I am at a loss of words at how difficult this was. I am planning on potentially revisiting this, but I need to reevaluate first what not to do to become better at this. If you have any feedback, I'm all ears. I'm not planning on owning another fish until I can move out in a room that is better cooled. This should give me plenty of time to reevaluate this. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you did enjoy my suffering.